Welcome to the True You Show Season 3. My name is Alexandra Deutner. I'm a transformational coach from Vienna, Austria. You know me by now, I guess. And I'm here to help you get the motivation, inspiration, and the tools to courageously create success, freedom, and happiness doing what you love, especially in these crazy times. And today's special guest is again Diane Lang. Welcome back, Diane.
Hi, thank you so much for having me back. And you're right, it is crazy time. So I think we need more tools in our toolbox to get through all of this.
Definitely, definitely. And we're going to talk about this. And before we do, I would love to introduce you really quickly. Yeah. So Diane, you are a therapist, educator, author of 3 books. You're an adjunct in psychology at Montclair State University, and you're a positive living expert. You have been featured in magazines and on TV, and you have dedicated your career to helping people turn their lives around. I love that. And now you're on a mission to help many, many people develop a sustainable, positive attitude that can actually turn one into an optimist, literally. And I love that. And that's all, that's what we need right now. So welcome. So happy to have you here with us today, Diane.
I'm happy to be here. And again, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, so awesome. So awesome. So Diane, I always start with the question, can you share a little bit of your personal story with us and how you actually managed to find and follow your true calling?
I think my calling has changed a few times. I've always been in the self-help field, but I started off as being a therapist in substance abuse. Then I went more on the college route and I was teaching full time. Then I went back and worked with traumatic brain injury and spinal injury and substance abuse. But I think my final path, what led me more into the positive psychology and, study and the science behind happiness, is about 10, 11 years ago, I got really sick and I had I wouldn't say life-threatening illness, but it seemed like it at the time because I couldn't swallow. And for about a year, I was having a really hard time and I could barely swallow even water. So the first 2 months of my illness, I lost 38 pounds and I just couldn't eat. I couldn't swallow water. I was going to get IVs and it was really scary because I had no idea what it was. And because I have a newer illness, nobody knew what to do with me. Nobody could figure it out. And it took about 8, 9 months to actually find a specialist who actually even knew how to do any treatments or even how to find the disease. So it took me 8, 9 months to even get diagnosed. And literally I was eating like less than a baby. It was just so because I couldn't swallow. And ended up that I burned my throat so much from acid. So a lot of people have Barrett's in their esophagus. I have what you get in your esophagus, but in your throat. And your throat can't handle burns at all. So literally I burned my throat shut and that's why I couldn't swallow. And it took so many months for them to realize what it was. And it's an illness I'm stuck with for life. It has literally shifted my life because it caused nerve damage. So I will always have problems swallowing and choking on food. It affects my career as a speaker. So it's been a really tough run. And I know when I was going through it the first few years, I was starting to look for different types of therapies to help me because it was something out of the norm. It was situational that I was anxious and depressed because of an illness, but I knew there just had to be something more. And that's where I really started with the positive psychology, teaching it, using it. And it really was a blessing because not only did it help me with my illness and get through it, going through any tough time, but it helped a lot of my clients with traumatic brain injury, spinal injury, and getting to the other side, healing emotionally. Because sometimes we only get stuck physically dealing with an illness, which is important. But we have to remember that anytime we go through a major illness or injury, it shifts us. We have to grieve our old identity. We have to grieve the time that was lost and then start healing emotionally to get to the other side. And positive psychology really offered a lot of different interventions and exercise to help me through the process and give me a different outlook. And that's why I loved it so much. And that's where the shift came from instead of just dealing with mental illness to dealing with the functioning person who's going through different situations, which is kind of what we're all going through with COVID, right? We couldn't prepare, we couldn't plan for it, but it absolutely impacted not just here in the United States, but every human being in the world. Yeah. So, it's really good to have some tips and tools that can help us move forward and through what we're dealing with and embracing change, because that's really what it is, right? Yeah. We're dealing with change and change is the only constant in the world. So when we can learn to deal and embrace change, we can kind of handle things that come our way. So that's where I really love about the science.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And there's so many questions that I immediately want to ask, but it's like, okay, like drop all my questions that I had in mind for what you just said. So, but before we go into that, like the True You show, as you know, right, always focuses on your true authentic self and becoming who you're meant to be, the best version of yourself. And what would be your tip or your advice on how we can get actually clearer on our true calling? And what would you say are the first steps to actually unlock our potential?
So I'm going to talk about it from a different place, and I'm sure other people have talked about it from, kind of a place of who am I? But I'm talking about it from a place of going through a transition and shifting. So when you go through any transition, like I did with an illness or my clients with an injury, but it could be a transition as you moved and you're in a whole new spot. It could be you lost your job. It could be, death, loss of a loved one. It could be a breakup, a divorce. Anything can cause a transition or physicals, menopause, perimenopause, empty nest syndrome, retirement, everything. We're always transitioning. And when we transition, it actually causes us to really self-evaluate who we are, because we are now going from, one chapter to a new chapter. And we need to figure out what part of our old life, our old identity, old chapter, do we want to bring with us into our new chapter identity? And what do we want that next chapter to look like? And it's really important that you do the self-evaluation of figuring out what's important to you currently. So what was purposeful or gave you meaning or fulfillment 5 years ago or last year might not be the same. And we've seen that a lot with people going through COVID, just like we did here in America during 9/11. When people go through a transition or, a traumatic time like we all have with COVID, it literally makes us shift in what's important to us, what do we value, and what do we want to bring to the world? How do we want to make it a better place? And not just for ourselves, but our kids, our family. And when you reevaluate, you might realize that what you were doing is just not what you want to do anymore. So it might shift your career like mine did. It just switched me from mental health into the positive psychology. It might shift how you treat other people or where you volunteer, or it just might shift your whole career. During 9/11, I watched a lot of my clients go from being, stockbrokers working on Wall Street, making millions, to it didn't really give me meaning. What gives me meaning now is going back and being a teacher or a social worker or a counselor or a coach. So you might just shift almost everything in your life, and that's okay. But it's really about taking the time to reevaluate who you are currently due to the situation, because for a lot of us, we get new purpose and meaning from that traumatic event. And that's really post-traumatic growth. It's finding out who you are, healing and growing from that experience, and then using that experience to make your life better, to be a better person, and make everybody around you happier, healthier. And again, whether it's through career, volunteer, or just the way you treat people or help people who are in your life. But it really does cause that shift. And I want everybody to know, even if you've gone through traumatic situation, we always talk about PTSD, which is absolutely real, post-traumatic stress disorder. But on the other side, everybody also has the ability to have post-traumatic growth. Even if you've had PTSD, you still have that ability. And it might take a few years because you have to heal and grow. And looking in hindsight helps us make changes, but you can get to that place. And that might allow you to have a whole new purpose and meaning and to embrace that. And that's really important because those experiences help us learn, shift, grow, and change. So not to be scared of them, not to be stuck in fear because of them, use them to learn from that experience of who you want to be and take that experience and help others with it.
I love it. I love it. And because you're also, I mean, you're a positive psychology expert, right? So how can positive psychology as such support us then in achieving our dreams? And you also mentioned change, right? How does it help us to accept change better and go with the flow instead of fighting it, right? And then also in the long run, achieve our dreams.
So one of the top tools or happiness habits or happiness hygiene, they call so many different things, is gratitude. And why I love gratitude is because gratitude is a superpower. To me, I think of it as a superpower. So it does a few things, and then we'll get into the shifting. But gratitude is a positive emotion. So every time you have gratitude, you feel gratitude, you cultivate gratitude, you get a boost of happiness because it's a positive emotion. And positive emotions are really important because we have so many negative emotions. We have anger, stress, anxiety, fear, all of those emotions, and I hate calling them negative because they really are natural and normal, but they're a little more dark or intense. But our negativity is stronger than our positivity. So the actual number or science behind it is you need 3 positive emotions to balance out 1 negative.
Wow.
Because negative is so much stronger. So when you do positive emotions, get like a daily diet of them, like gratitude, kindness, awe, wonderment, hope, inspiration, love, joy, all of those, we can balance out some of the negative. So gratitude does that, gives you that positive emotion, that boost of happiness. It's also a form of mindfulness. And mindfulness is the only natural way to de-stress. So when we are mindful, and that doesn't mean you have to meditate, which if you want to, meditation, yoga, those are great, but those are intentional practices of being mindful. So gratitude is also an intentional practice of being mindful. So when I'm grateful, I'm in the moment, which is great, because when I'm stressed, angry, anxious, fearful, I'm usually either in the past, right, thinking about what I should have done, why I didn't do it, how did I say that, all my regrets, or I'm bringing all that past baggage with me into the moment. If I'm not there, I'm in the future thinking about what's going to happen, the what ifs. So when I'm in the moment, I am my calmest. I reduce my chronic pain. I lower my blood pressure. I reduce all of the stress hormone cortisol. I self-soothe. And that is really important. So gratitude does that. And very easily, gratitude also starts shifting your brain. It kind of rewires your brain to notice the positive instead of the negative. Now, negative, again, is much stronger. And we all have genetically the negative bias. So we tend to see the negative, get stuck in the negative, notice the negative. But when we do gratitude on a daily basis, it literally shifts us. So I have my clients do the simple exercise at the end of the day to just ask themselves what are 2 to 3 things they're grateful for that happened today. You can write it and have like a gratitude journal. You can say it out loud. You can say it in your head, however you want to do it. I have them do it before bed because, again, it's a form of mindfulness, which helps us sleep. And also, we don't want to have any negative thoughts before we go to bed because that helps, it'll help reduce the rumination of the negativity. It also helps us dream better because we're having good thoughts before we go to bed. Because whatever you're thinking about 20 to 30 minutes before bed affects if you sleep, how you sleep, and what mood you wake up and how you dream. But by asking yourself, what are 2 to 3 things I'm grateful for that happened in my day? It starts shifting what you notice. So instead of looking for the negative, now you're looking for the little gifts, blessings, and miracles that happen during your day, which could be anything. It could be you didn't hit traffic for some reason. It could be that you had a good hair day. It could be you ran into a friend at the coffee shop. It could be that the sun came out even though it was supposed to rain. Whatever it is, you're just noticing and really taking a moment or two to appreciate it, to savor it. And that starts shifting. So when you do that every day, you start shifting what you look for. And happiness is a perspective. Am I choosing to see the negative or the positive? They both exist. They're both a reality. But where are you choosing to put your focus on? And gratitude helps shift that. So that is one way to kind of help rewire or retrain your brain to start seeing the positive. But it has to be consistent. It has to be something you have to do every day. But it is such an easy, effective tool because it's free. It's easy. It doesn't change your schedule. And you'll notice the benefits in about a month. People's happiness levels rose in a month. So gratitude is one of the best tools I always put out there for people to start just shifting just a little bit. Again, we're going for little micro steps to move forward into the positive direction and help us, notice the positive.
I love that. Thank you for because I'm also a big fan of gratitude exercises. I think they're really powerful. And it's a great reminder to really do them daily because I think many of us tend to, I do it one day and then I forget about it 3 days, but it's the consistency, right, that makes all the difference.
Yeah, you have to be consistent. And, one of the things to think about is you're forming a new habit. Let's say gratitude's a new habit for you, or whether you're breaking an old habit that doesn't work for you. It takes consistency of about 2.5, 3 months for a habit to become lifestyle, meaning autopilot, that you don't even think about it. Like I end up doing gratitude without even thinking about it. And I noticed myself doing it during the day. All of a sudden, I'm being grateful. It's just such an autopilot habit. But for you to really do that, it takes a good 2.5, 3 months, and then it'll become the way you tie your shoes, brush your teeth, brush your hair. You don't think about it. You just do it. And that's what we want gratitude to become, a lifestyle habit. And so just give yourself that consistency of a few months. In a month, you'll notice the benefits. But if you want it to be done as a habit, give it that 2.5, 3 months.
I love it. I love it. And how can positive psychology also help us to deal with change, right? That we don't fear change anymore, but acknowledge it and allow it into our lives with open arms, right? Because that's what's happening all the time now. All these changes, and you were talking about transition. So what is your advice on that?
So a few things about change. One is remembering that change is the only constant in the world. So even if you go back to nature versus nurture, not to sound like intro to psych, we know 10% of your life is circumstances. You know, that's going to be here forever. As long as you're a human being, there's going to be circumstances that we can't prepare or plan for, that we can't control, but impact us. So remembering that change is the only constant. And the more you fight or resist the change, the more you add stress to it. So we don't want you to do that. Remember that. The same with anxiety. If you fight it, you resist it, you're just going to increase it and you're just going to add more stress to your life. So don't fight it. Lean into it. I know that sounds scary. Lean into it. Embrace it. Also remember this with change. Change brings up fear. That's usually what it does, right? It brings up all this fear. I don't know what's going to happen. I feel that lack of control. I don't know what to do. Remember this number, and I love this statistic because it helps me all the time. 90% of what you fear never happens. 90%. That's a huge number. Yeah. And we'll spend so much time, like let's say, and I know I just went through this. So I had to go to the dentist, and I know nobody likes the dentist. Poor dentist, right? Everybody rather do something else than go to the dentist. But I had a crown that cracked, and it was an old crown. My dentist's been telling me for years, you're going to eventually need that. Of course, I wait to the very last minute because I don't want to go. And of course, by the time I have to get it done, my dentist retires. And now I have to go to a new dentist. So now I have the fear of the crown. I have the fear of a new dentist. I'm like, oh my God. And for me, it's very scary because when they put you all the way back and they dry out your mouth, I can't swallow because of my illness. It makes it much harder. So I'm really stressed. So I get myself into this whole stressed out situation over this. I go, I get it done. And I'm like, wow, the new dentist was really great. It's my old dentist's son. So I should have, like he trained him. I'm like, he was really good. And that was painless. And that wasn't half as bad as I thought. And that's what we always do. So if you remember the 90%, out of the 10% that's left, 5% actually happens. The other 5% happens, but not half as bad as you thought. And that's what happened. Like, yes, did my jaw hurt from keeping it open for an hour and a half? Yes. Was it fun? Absolutely not. It's not like something I want to do on a weekly basis. Was it as bad as I imagined? Nowhere even near it. And just remembering that statistic. And the other thing to think about is mindfulness. Because mindfulness, again, will bring you back to the moment. When change is happening, you have that lack of control. You start going into the past. Is it going to be as bad as a past situation is? Or am I going into that anticipatory anxiety? I don't know what this is. And are we going to ever get there? And what's that going to look like? When I come back here, I calm. So doing doing a few different things to self-soothe. And remember, self-soothing and self-care are different. Self-care is preventative. I'm going to have a self-care routine that's preventative. I'm going to get enough sleep. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to drink enough water. I'm going to add exercise. I'm going to meditate. Those are all great. They're preventative. When I'm in the moment of being stressed, anxious, angry, fearful, nervous, whatever it is, that's when I need self-soothing. And mindfulness is both. So when you're in that moment, whether you're getting stressed or anxious or fearful from the change, or the thought that change might be happening, or it's going to happen, even if it's planned change, your job's going out of business, you work, COVID, a company's going out, it's happening 4 months from now, but still causing that anxiety and fear. You want to do a few things. You have a few options. One, you could do deep breathing. And I just want to make it as simple as possible, because when you're in the moment of stress or anger or irritability, you don't think about, well, I should hold my nose for 9 seconds and do this. There's very simple ways. There's either box breathing, which is what we teach the military here in the States to really do in a stressful situation, which is just a box, meaning 4 sides. Or in counseling, we just call it the 1, 2, 3 technique. And all it is for breathing is breathing in through your nose, holding and exhaling. So if you could just do that cycle, it reduces the physical symptoms of stress. And when that starts calming down, your thoughts start calming down. It kind of works together, that mind body. So if you want to do it, you could just do a deep breath in, inhale through your nose for either a count of 3 or 4, hold for a count of 3 or 4, 4, and then exhale for a count of 3 or 4. Just that for a minute or two. And if you're in a safe, secure place that you're comfortable, close your eyes. It adds to the relaxation. If you don't want to do that, you could do a grounding exercise, which is very simple and again, easy. And it's something easy to remember. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's it. And it's just using your senses. And you can go in any order you want. What are 5 things I see? What are 4 things I hear? 3 things I smell? 2 things I touch? 1 thing I taste. And again, that grounding just brings you back, but they're very easy to remember. And another simple one is just chew gum. I know that sounds really easy, but the repetition of chewing literally does 2 things. It helps reduce your nervousness and worry, but it also helps improve your memory. So if you're taking a test and you're getting anxious or something like that, chew gum or something with the repetition of chewing. If you don't want to chew gum or you have dental work, it could be Twizzlers, it could be celery, whatever you want, just the repetition of chewing. And again, embracing it, don't fight it, don't resist it, and do self-talk. Remind yourself, 90% of what I fear never happens. Remind yourself this is temporary, because everything is temporary. Remind yourself that if you're in the middle of an anxiety attack, it feels harmful, but it's not. And just reminding yourself that, and then if you're having all these belief systems going, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, challenge it. Is this based on truth or fact? Where is this coming from? Identify and label what you're feeling. And notice, is this bringing up past triggers? And is it really about what's going on today? Or is it just bringing up a lot of other old wounds I haven't dealt with or triggering me? And you can do all of that. I know that's a lot for one question, but there's just some information to give people. And keep that in your emotional toolbox and pull them out when you need it.
I love that. So many tips, so many tips. So people feel free to also rewatch Diane's interview to take some notes, right? It definitely makes sense. There were lots of amazing nuggets in there. And you also, as I said at the beginning, right, you wrote several books, and one of them is called Creating Balance and Finding Happiness. And I love this, this balance thing. So I would love to hear what are maybe your 3 biggest tips on creating balance and finding happiness.
I have one big tip for balance, and it'll also help with everything else. Routines, routines, routine. Routine helps you keep balanced. Routine is self-care, it's preventative, and this is not just for you, this is for your whole family, whether you have young kids, teens, or as adults. We need routine, consistency, and schedule. And with COVID, we saw a lot of people's lives go up and down, right? They went from normalcy, what was normal back pre-COVID, to lockdowns where we were home 24 hours a day with our kids. Then we went back to normal last July because we thought it was over, right? Then Omicron came, and then it became a hybrid world. Now we're kind of in a world that it seems like it's going to remain hybrid. Maybe online during the winter, we come out in the summer, those kind of things, and it keeps changing, right? So routines need to be something that you have no matter what's going on in your life. So you should have a morning and an evening. If you want a midday routine, that's fine. But if not, morning and evening are perfect. And what I suggest is a few things. When you wake up in the morning, make your bed. Doesn't matter if you work from home or you're going to sit in traffic. Making your bed, very simple, easy. It's a military thing, but what it does is it takes 30 seconds to a minute. It gives you accomplishment and pride. You've done something, you see it, and accomplishment and pride are positive emotions. There's your happiness level. Second thing you could do, again, whether you stay home, you go to work, you're sick, it doesn't matter. Ask yourself the magic question that was created by a cardiologist. Very simple question. How can I make this a great day? And I don't want you to try and answer it. Because if you try and answer it, you're going to try and answer it on autopilot, the way you normally do things. Well, how's this a very good day? It's raining out, or I got to go to work. I didn't sleep well. I don't want you to do that. Ask it, throw it out kind of to the universe, go on with your whatever routine, taking a shower, making you coffee, whatever you got to do, and it'll come up. Your brain will start looking for the answer. Eat a healthy breakfast, again, whatever that is, because breakfast is very important. And then do something mindful. And again, 1 minute, 2 minutes, depending on what you have time. If you have a lot of time, you could do a journal, right? Where you just write down whatever you're feeling as a release. So you write it down, and writing's better, old-fashioned writing. You can just write down whatever you're feeling, no judgment, no analyzing, no spell check, grammar check, just write it. And you can either keep it as a journal, as a self-awareness tool to see how far you've come, to see patterns, or you can rip it up when you're done, like ripping up the negativity, or if you're afraid someone's going to read it, just get rid of it. If you have more time, you can go for a walk. Walking is one of the best ways to be mindful, if you have the time. If not, prayer. It's another form of meditation. Do prayer. If you have 2 or 3 minutes, grab your coffee or tea, whatever you start your day with. Sit outside if the weather's good. If not, the way you have beautiful windows and doors behind you, sit and look at nature and just use one of your senses. Just notice what you see. If it's raining out, hold your coffee cup, feel the heat, take a sip, taste it, smell the aroma, just for a minute or two. Then for evening, you want to wind down. So you want to do a few things. And a simple one again, no matter what your day looks like, write out your to-do list for the next day. Write it out so it doesn't weigh on your head, keep you up, ruminate, or if you wake up in the middle of the night, keep you up. Just write out everything. Phone calls, emails, appointments, everything you need to do, write it out. Again, whatever you're thinking about 20 to 30 minutes before bed affects your sleep. So it should be positive. Add the gratitude in. If you have more time and you want to, meditation. If not, stretching, because it reduces the tension out of your body. Do a minute or two of stretching. Have a cup of sleepy time tea. Take a bath or shower. Those are all mindful experiences. That's the easiest way to have a routine that goes no matter what you're doing. And it only has to take, making your bed, saying the magic question and, holding your cup of coffee for 2 minutes. That's less than 5 minutes. We all can do 5 minutes or wake up 5 minutes earlier. And the same with night. Doesn't take very long, but it's important because the night winds us down so we can sleep and the morning sets us up for our day. And that keeps us balanced. And when we know what we have to do by the to-do list and we have a routine, we feel a sense of calm. So routines.
Yeah, I love it. Routines, routines, routines. So I love
That's
it.
it. Routines. Instead of location, 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 routines, routines, consistency, schedule. Keep to it.
I love that. And so another question that I would love to ask after all that wonderful input is, what would you say, how can we actually move from scarcity to abundance? Because my impression was that many people are now stuck in scarcity. How can we move from there to abundance? What are your tips or insights?
So when most people have that fear of scarcity, it's a belief system.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to think back and go, what is your belief on finances, on money? What do you believe? Because honestly, most of my clients who have the scarcity fear have a full-time job and they're not really in scarcity. It's because they were raised with it, and which makes sense. A lot of us were raised with parents who were either at the beginning of the Great Depression or their parents raised them. Mm-hmm. And then here in America, around 2007 or 8, we had a recession. And I watched a lot of people go back into that fear. And again, a lot of it wasn't realistic. It's based on what is learned. Mm-hmm. So the first place I want you to go is, what is my belief on money, finances? Really write it down. What's my belief? And then ask yourself, is this even my belief? Because most of the time it's not. It's your parents, your grandparents, excuse me, whoever raised you. Mm-hmm. And then ask yourself this: if it's just a belief and it's not my reality, I'm okay right now, mm-hmm. then work through changing your belief. Because mm-hmm. again, the belief will keep you stuck. Mm-hmm. And I've seen that millions of times. Now, if it's not a belief system and you really are struggling, there's a real situation, then you want to deal with writing a budget, setting goals, and working on how can I make myself more abundant, whether it's a side hustle, whether it's making more money, asking for more money, because a lot of times we're not raising our rates, even though inflation and everything else has gone up. And that's part of the problem. A lot of us fear asking for more, but yet everything, and I'm sure it's the same where you live, gas is the highest it's been since, I think, the 70s here, when there was a gas problem. I was like single digit, so I don't remember. And I was less, I wasn't even in preschool, so I don't know, but I've been told our prices of food, everything has gone up like triple here. And I'm sure this is across the board. I think this is more of a global issue, partly COVID, partly the war, millions of different reasons. So if it's a real issue, then it's what can we do about it now instead of getting stuck in the fear? Because if we get stuck in the fear, we're stuck. It's what can I do about this? How can I go from the fear to problem solving? And if you can't do it on your own, then sit down with a few people, brainstorm, problem solve, troubleshoot, get as much information about the situation, because they might be able to see ideas that you can't because you're emotionally attached to the fear. They're not. So they might say simple things like, well, you could just do this. You'd be like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Or you can ask for more money here, or you haven't had your review in 8 months. Why don't you ask for a raise? Things you won't think of because you're in the middle of anxiety. Mm-hmm. So sit down and problem solve, but make sure it's a realistic fear. Because I got to tell you, a lot of times it's not. It's just a fear. It's not the reality. They're still making money. They still have money in the bank. But the fear of what could happen, or because of the way we're raised, that keeps us stuck. And yes, there is definitely inflation, and we're definitely going to hit probably, I mean, I'm not a financial person, but I think we're probably already in somewhat of a little bit of a recession from COVID and stuff. And I'm sure, I hate to say it, they're saying it's probably going to get a little worse. Not sure about Austria, but here in the United States. So yes, maybe saving some money, putting a budget together, not spending it as much on certain things might be a reality for you, but make sure it is a reality. And also make sure, is it really the worst case scenario? Because again, when we sit down and go, what's our best, worst, and realistic? If the worst case scenario is you just have to budget because things have gotten really expensive, but you know you can and you both have incomes, don't stress. It might be the realistic. Yeah, we might have to cut out going out to dinner every week. Maybe we'll just go out every other week. You know, be realistic and also work on your belief systems and then get a budget and do what you need to do moving forward.
I love it. I love it. And we're almost coming to an end. But before we share your gift with us, I have one more question. Do you have one final mindset tip for us? Yeah. That we can, like our audience can courageously create all they so want to create? Is there one number one mindset tip that you desperately want to share with us and you haven't shared yet?
I don't know if it's a tip, but what I have my clients do, and I think it's really important, is do kind of a vision map, not a vision board. Vision map where you write out every area of your life, from career to health to finances to relationships to family. Write out every area of your life, spiritual, religion, whatever it is. And look at each area, and the areas that are not working, put them in a priority order of what the most important is, and go to the top one and write down your belief. And if you're not sure what your belief is, here's a little bit of a technique, and we kind of use it with CBT. For about a week or so, pay attention or be mindful to all your words and phrases that come up. Not every word and phrase, but when you're in a tough time, when you're stressed and anxious, when you're bored, when you wake up in the morning, before you go to sleep at night, when you're driving in the car, when someone pisses you off, what comes up? What words and phrases? Because that's showing you what beliefs you're holding on to. So again, go to the area that's not working in your life, the one that's affecting you the most, and really think about what's my belief system on that. If I'm not sure, write the words and phrases out, pay attention to that for a week or two, ask other people around you, what am I always stressing about? What do I talk about in the negative way often, so you can kind of figure out what your belief is and then work on changing it, because it really makes a difference. If you don't change your mindset, you know, I've had clients who've lost hundreds of pounds literally altogether, and it took them years, and they get to this place that they have the energy they want, they can do the things they want to do, you know, play with their kids and all that, but they don't feel it because their mindset is still being that heavy, unhappy, miserable person that they were. Those are their words. You know, I felt so miserable because I couldn't be the mom I wanted to be. I was uncomfortable with my body weight. I didn't feel good. I wasn't healthy. I'm finally in a healthy place, but why am I not enjoying it? Why am I not happy? It's because your mindset is still where it was. And the best tip I could say is mindset's in your control. So we're not in control of a lot of things, but you are in control of your mindset, which is your habits, your beliefs, and patterns. So you can change it. All of it. So work on it, be aware of what it is.
Yeah, I love it. Great final words. And off we go to your amazing free gift, Diane.
So I have a new website. So if you go on my website, dianelang.org, there is a new free book, which is a few chapters on being mindful and happy. So jump on my website at dianelang.org, fill it out, and you can get your free book by email. And I hope everybody enjoys it.
I'm sure they will. Thanks so much, Diane. Thanks so much for your insights. So many tools and tips and tricks. I so enjoyed having you here with us again today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was great being here.
Yeah, it was wonderful to have you. And I hope everyone who's watching today also got a lot out of it. Let us know what resonated with you. Don't forget to follow your dreams and to be your true you, and to follow, control your mindset and use some of the tools and share with us what worked and what your new routine will be. I would love to hear that actually, what resonated. Yeah. So thanks so much, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow at another episode of the True You Show. All the best, and don't forget to follow your dreams. Bye-bye. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.